This morning on Inside Kansas Politics.
You're pointing the camera at me.
An abortion clinic in southeast Kansas is getting national attention.
We don't believe that a baby should have to be killed for the sins of his father.
Why it's reigniting a heated debate in a small college town. Plus, U.S. Senator Roger Marshall under fire for flights to Florida. Why his trips are falling under scrutiny this morning. And how his team is putting out the flames. And
I think they would be very open to a deal.
The latest pitch for a Chiefs stadium could keep the team in KC Mo.
We definitely want to keep the Chiefs in Jackson County.
What this means for Kansas's plan to lure the Super Bowl champs. From the Kansas State Capitol, this is Inside Kansas Politics. You're taking a look inside Kansas politics. Welcome in. I'm Rebecca Chung. You've seen these designs floating around for months now. This could potentially be the future stadium of the Kansas City Chiefs. But will it be in KCK or KC Mo? That's the big question. The latest pitch from Missouri could sway the Chiefs to stay, but the Royals could be left out of the deal. Jonathan Ketz has more.
I think it's a very viable option.
John Patterson, who could become the next Speaker of the House in Missouri, says he thinks the Chiefs would be open to being on the ballot in April of 2025 to continue getting sales tax money from Jackson County shoppers.
Of course, once you get down to all the fine details, those have to be worked out. But I think they would be very open to a deal where they get the 3/8 and are able to renovate or expand Arrowhead.
The Chiefs wouldn't comment to Fox 4 on camera Friday, but if the team were to get the entire 3/8 cent in sales tax money, that would seemingly leave the Royals out. They wouldn't comment to Fox 4 either. Before trying to build their new ballpark in the east crossroads of Jackson County in Kansas City, Missouri, the team had publicly discussed considering a site in North Kansas City and Clay County.
I think the reality is that that the Royals may have to find someplace besides Jackson County in Missouri. One thing I know is that talking with people, that we want to keep these teams in Missouri, and we definitely want to keep the Chiefs in Jackson County.
All right, I'm here with political analyst Bob Beatty and State House reporter for the Associated Press, John Hanna. Both of them are weighing in today. And Bob, let's start with your take on this. What could this new pitch mean for the future of the Kansas City Chiefs and Royals? And could Kansas get left hanging with that Star Bonds package that they passed?
This is all getting very, very interesting, isn't it? I mean, initially, Kansas was really trying to entice the Kansas City Chiefs with this big money Star Bonds, hundreds of millions of dollars, billions was sort of dangled out there for a brand new stadium. And now we see Jackson County saying, hey, why don't we have a vote, and if it passes, you can get the whole 3/8, forget the Royals, and you'll get a chunk of money, and then the Chiefs can decide, hey, do we want to do all those upgrades? And again, we have a lot more money. They might not get this brand new stadium, but the Chiefs might be happy. But where does that leave the Royals? So now, are the Royals going to look and say, well, the Star Bonds from Kansas do apply to us, even though it was really the Chiefs Kansas was looking at, because the Royals seem to be looking for a downtown stadium in Kansas City, but is the money there? And if it's not Jackson County, I think that's a big question. So we kind of thought this would happen, and we're going to keep following it on this show, of course, and others. But really, the balls are in Missouri's court and in specific counties' court. But Kansas still has a strong hand, and I'm not going to count Kansas out until literally two things pass for the one each for the Royals and the Chiefs.
You know what, they got to follow the money. And John, I was going to direct this question at you here. What's your take? If the Royals come to Kansas, do you think it will yield as much return on the state's investment?
It never does.
No.
Okay.
It never does. Sports stadium, subsidizing sports stadium, there's 40 years of economic research that shows it's not a net gain for a community. It often comes with costs. This is a fool's errand. Any economist, good economist, will tell you it's a total fool's errand to think you're going to boost your economy. What you're going to do is cannibalize existing business from other parts of your community. So in this case, the reason to do it is that you might be cannibalizing from those border ruffians in Missouri, and we might get them to atone for Quantrill's raid or whatnot. Or if it doesn't work as intended, you might take the business from other parts of, say, Johnson County. Look, this is about community pride. This is about what part of the metro area is the major league part of the metro area. It's about having this really neat thing that you can point to, and maybe you can bring in some residents, some high-flying business people, that sort of thing, because now you're a bigger deal than you were. The Chiefs were always the big draw because they're the Super Bowl champions. They could be the Super Bowl champions for, I think, the 4th time in 5 years now. And the Royals were not doing as well in terms of playing, but they are close enough to the playoffs now that it looks good. And remember, it was only in 2015 that they won, I think it was 2015, or was it? Yeah, it was 2015 that they won the World Series. So they can be competitive. There are a couple of interesting wrinkles here. How are voters in Jackson County going to react if they get asked to do this again? You know, the Missouri governor's race, the Republican primary, was won by Kehoe, the lieutenant governor, and of the 3 major candidates, he was the one who was not opposed to using state subsidies or funds or whatnot to help the Chiefs and the Royals to keep them in Missouri. So we'll see where this goes. I mean, look, part of this is the Chiefs and the Royals they're businesses, they're big businesses, and they're looking for the best deal they can get. And they'll keep playing Kansas and Missouri off each other until they get a deal that they think is really, really good. And it's interesting to me that the idea would be to keep the Chiefs in KSMO and then maybe really upgrade Arrowhead. Some of the discussion is whether the Hunt family wants a domed stadium so that they could, you know, have the prestige of hosting a Super Bowl. And if it were domed, and you could have Taylor Swift do 100 concerts there a year. Now that might boost the economy.
All right, thank you both. U.S. Senator Roger Marshall is in hot water. Questions are swirling around his flights to Florida coming up. What documents are revealing this morning and why his team says it's all official, and later on.
I've never met a woman that regretted having her child.
An abortion clinic in southeast Kansas is reigniting the debate over reproductive rights. How the new spot is expanding access beyond this college town. We'll be right back. You're watching Inside Kansas Politics.
Dear road rivals, no truck on the road drives value like the Tundra. Day after day, mile after mile, it all adds up to big savings under the hood. What's under yours? Toyota Tundra.
Lease the 2024 Tundra for $399 a month or get 1.99% APR financing for 48 months on Tundra. Find yours at Toyota.com. Toyota. Let's go places.
When it comes to bikes, here's what you want. Reliable, fast, and tough as nails. That's what you get at OCC. And after a crash, that's what you get at Devon James.
Paul Sr. knows us well. We're the Kansas law firm motorcyclists have counted on for years.
We work fast to get you the best results. We're tough where it counts, fighting for you.
Reliable, fast, tough as nails. These are the guys that I'd call Devon James wins. 888-8888.
5 years ago, I reconnected with my estranged father, and that's just something I never ever thought could happen. But when he became a believer, he just had this insatiable appetite to learn the Bible, and he began to watch Dr. Stanley.
God always blesses obedience without an exception.
He teaches in a way that it just makes sense, and I feel like that's the way our Heavenly Father would teach us.
I only had a 29% chance to find a blood stem cell donor, but then we matched. Dear donor, we beat leukemia. Thank you forever and ever.
Save a life at nmdp.org.
Kansas Senator Roger Marshall is now in hot water, reportedly charging taxpayers for flights to Sarasota, Florida. That's where he has a $1.2 million vacation home and where he has a couple of kids that live there. But it's raising questions about the nature of these trips. If they are mainly business related, according to the law, you can't spend taxpayer money on personal travel. And ultimately, it's up to the U.S. Senate Ethics Committee to decide whether these trips fall under the category of work as opposed to leisure. They can't write off unofficial travel. Now, we reached out to the senator's team. They didn't give us his schedule for those trips, but we did get this statement. A spokeswoman for his office says each flight was approved by the Senate rules and also admissible official travel. That included visits to military bases, agriculture interests, and meetings regarding healthcare policy. Now, I wanted to get your guys' take on this because this has been something that's really been making sometimes, I think, national headlines. Excuse me. But what do we think about these flights to Florida? It's not uncommon, you know, for lawmakers to obviously have homes outside of their home state or to travel and get compensated for it if it's approved. But it's also a bit of a murky line. Right, Bob?
Oh, yes, for sure. And first of all, U.S. taxpayer dollars can't be spent on personal travel? I didn't know that. I'm just kidding. It's very murky because what Congress people do is they combine the two, and then that's legal, which is to go do something official, and then that's where they're go do something personal, and that makes perfect sense. Now, we have a long tradition, John knows, in Kansas of this issue popping up politically. Yeah. So we got that going on. Nancy Boyda, who's currently running for the 2nd District, she actually made it an issue when she ran against Jim Ryan, because he had a big house, maybe big, I don't know, expensive, in the Washington, D.C. area, and he spent, basically was living there. Now, again, John will chime in, but this is all perfectly legal. Most famously, U.S. Senator Pat Roberts from Kansas rented out a lazy boy chair that he said. Yeah,
that was it turned out to be an unfortunate joke on a radio show on his part.
Yeah, that he slept in, and that became very famous, and he got a primary opponent who ran, maybe we can watch it sometime on the show, but ran a really good TV ad that featured somebody, in a lazy boy chair in the middle of a field. And so that's where it's important. It's legal actually to really not live in the state you represent. I mean, as long as you hang out there and vote there, because the voting is pretty loose in terms of what's legal. The key is the politics of it. So Pat Roberts actually had a bit of a primary scare. Of course, he prevailed, but it really made a little bit of waves that primary season. So I would argue that we have maybe the possible ethics violation. They'll look into this. Maybe that's nothing. But in terms of the politics of it, is down the road, is there any primary opponent for Roger Marshall? And we don't know. Could be down the road that could use this politically because it's always fodder for a primary.
Exactly, campaign. And we're a little less than 2 years away from that primary.
8 years. I mean, it could be way down the road. As long it's going to
way down the road. But the next election he'll face is in 2026, and so the question is, does somebody already sense an opening to challenge Roger Marshall? And in the party, it will probably have to be a Republican, given the long history of Republican victories in U.S. Senate races. And if they do, this then becomes a pretty easy issue to throw up there, in the sense that voters, even voters who are not very much engaged in politics, can understand the does he live here, does he shop here argument. And it could be potent, or if Marshall is standing pretty tall politically early in 2026, it may not amount to anything.
All right.
It just depends.
Yeah.
Okay, we got a lot more to get to after the break. This abortion clinic is sparking a heated debate in a rural town. Up next, why it's finding itself at the center of a national moment. And still ahead, election season is heating up with a slew of attack ads. Why local races are being targeted.
Ladyfingers Automotive. Family-owned auto repair with hands that understand your vehicle. Quality repairs done at an affordable cost. When you're in need of service, repair, or towing, remember Ladyfingers Automotive.
Hi, Clay Sherwood here with Frank and Dean, the CEOs of Cute, and they want me to tell you about Aquasil chlorine-free Aquasil pool care systems. Aquacil won't bleach out your swimwear, is easy on your swimming pool liner, is soft on your eyes, hair, and fur. Aquacil is preferred over salt, chlorine, and makes it easier to take care of your pool. Come into Swims and Sweeps for all your chemical needs. We want your summer to be fun, safe, clean with Aquacil Pool Care System. The difference is clear.
When it comes to finishing your garage, basement, or even outdoor space, Garage Force concrete coatings provide a custom, finished look while adding functionality to your existing concrete surface. Let us do the dirty work so you can sit back and enjoy the beauty of your new floor.
Air not blowing, pipes not flowing, bulbs not glowing? Blue Dot Heating, Plumbing, and Electrical can fix it all. Our experts are at your service 24/7. After 65 years, we are proud to be the only 24/7 emergency provider for HVAC, electrical, and plumbing in Topeka. We offer several 0% interest options or even extended terms with low monthly payments. We have plans to fit your needs and your budget. So call Blue Dot, one call for all your home comfort needs at 785-272-1633.
Hi, I'm Bob Euchre. I was 5 years old when Lou Gehrig retired from baseball because of ALS. It's been 8 decades since Lou's speech, and we still don't have a cure for this devastating disease that affects thousands of Americans every year, including my daughter Leanne. But we are making progress, and we need your help to finally strike out ALS. Please join us by visiting als.org. Thank you.
Welcome back. The debate over reproductive rights lives on in this college town. The Planned Parenthood clinic in Pittsburgh opened just last month, and in the weeks following, several anti-abortion groups gathered outside the building, voicing their opposition. They say Kansas has become an abortion destination because it's illegal in neighboring states. Some of the protesters even support a total ban on abortions, including in cases of rape and incest.
We don't believe that a baby should have to be killed for the sins of his father, you know, and I know people who were conceived in rape. I know people who were women who were actually raped and kept their children, and none of them ever regret. I've never met a woman that regretted having her child.
Kansans enshrined the right to abortion through a statewide constitutional amendment 2 years ago. More recently, the Kansas Supreme Court struck down a state law that placed restrictions on some abortions, and a spokesperson from Planned Parenthood was not on site but issued a statement. It states in part, quote, "The presence of anti-abortion protesters outside our health center is an unnecessary disruption to our patients who come to Planned Parenthood for essential, comprehensive sexual and reproductive health care services." End quote. We're back with our panel now. And John, I want to start with you because you've been covering this issue, and especially with this clinic in Southeast Kansas.
Sure.
So what are some of the key takeaways from them setting up shop?
Well, I should note, I've been covering this. I have a colleague in Kansas City, Heather Hollingsworth, who went down and visited with a videographer, Nick Ingram, and a photographer, Charlie Riedel. But the takeaway here is that you are starting across the country to see clinics operating themselves close to places, close to states, borders of states that have near total bans. For example, in the St. Louis area, there are several clinics across in Illinois. But what's interesting about this one is it is in the southeast corner of the state. It's up a little north from that corner, but it's in Pittsburgh. It is literally minutes away from Missouri, where there's a very strict anti-abortion law. It is within an hour and a half of Oklahoma and Arkansas, or as I like to call it, Arkansas. And they have very strict abortion laws. And it is probably within, I was looking at the maps, 2.5 hours of Texas, which of course was tightening up its abortion laws even before Roe versus Wade fell. And so what the Planned Parenthood people told us was that they're in a position where they're having to turn away roughly 2/3 of the people who call them for appointments. They just don't have the capacity, and so they built this clinic to kind of get that capacity to provide these abortion-related services. Now, eventually what they say is the services will expand some to include some of their more, if you go to the Kansas City clinic, for example, you know, STD treatments, birth control, a whole range of services dealing with reproductive health care and in some cases gender transition care. But to start, this clinic is going to focus more on abortion because that's where they're seeing the biggest demand. And yes, Kansas has, in a strict sense, become a destination state for patients seeking abortions. The number of abortions have really risen. I've seen some estimates from the Guttmacher Institute, it supports abortion rights, that it may exceed 20,000 over the past year. That's an extraordinary increase from where the state was before the Dobbs decision in Texas and Oklahoma began tightening up their laws. And so the argument for Planned Parenthood and other abortion rights activists is they are simply filling a medical need that women in this 4-state area need, and that's what's driving this. And of course you saw the comments from Cheryl Sullinger, who is a very long-time abortion opponent activist with the group Operation Rescue. It was almost inevitable that abortion opponents from the 4-state area would be doing something, and probably on a fairly regular basis. This is an area that within 100 miles that tends to be more evangelical and a little more Catholic than the nation as a whole, while the Kansas part of it within 100 miles, it's difficult to parse, but the constitutional amendment you mentioned was actually to give the legislature the power to greatly restrict or ban abortion. So a yes vote for that would have allowed that. In that 100-mile area, it narrowly passed. Now in Crawford County, it failed. And of course in Kansas as a whole, the vote that you mentioned to affirm abortion rights, that proposal failed statewide almost 60%. So that set the stage for Kansas to get more abortion patients. It's different status from other states.
Okay, and Bob, what's your take?
Well, the other argument from Planned Parenthood and other organizations that support the right for people to get abortion is, is abortion if it's legal, is it only for those with wealth and means or near an urban area? Or, like you're mentioning, should it be available for people from rural areas or who can't travel, or can't buy a plane ticket to California or something? So that's one of the other arguments they're making, is that to have it should be accessible in non-urban areas. Well, and the other argument that kind of goes hand in glove with that is that girls won't stop trying to have abortions even if it's banned. They will, there are groups out there, I think one is called Plan B or one of the letters, and they are dedicated to getting you abortion medications through the mail. And then, I have talked to patients who have used herbal remedies, and, very, very veteran abortion rights activists will talk to about a pre-road time when you would go to doctors who would do it illegally, kind of on the side and in makeshift clinics in sometimes not very good conditions.
All right, thank you both. When we come back, the latest political attack ads are out and PACs are packing on the heat. Why key seats in the legislature are under attack. You're watching Inside Kansas Politics.
Vanderbilt's is the place to save this fall. FinTech thermal lined hoodie. Choose from 5 great colors. Closeout price $19.99. New Keen Evanston waterproof carbon toe boots for men and women. Our price $124.99. Our best-selling Carhartt pocket tees are in stock, starting at $19.99. Lightweight and slip-resistant Volcom Chill safety shoes, $84.99.
Your work boots center, Vanderbilt.
It's so hard to predict a sick kid who just keep getting sicker, but we needed to be together as a family. My family is my entire life. My family means the world to me.
When we're together and we have support from Ron McDonald House, we can be a little stronger. They provide food and a place to rest your head, and they will help you through every step. That's what gets you through every day when you don't know how else you're gonna make it.
It makes you feel like you're not alone.
Are the reason we do this show.
And we love hearing from you.
TV's #1 entertainment talk show has everyone talking. You guys are so great together. Entertaining, hilarious, and so fun to watch. I am positive that you both are soulmates for sure. Always enjoy Kelly's snoring stories. They're the best we got on TV.
Thanks for all the love.
We promise to bring you more of what you love.
That's right.
Weekdays at 11 on 27 KSNT.
Well, it wouldn't be an election season without some political jabs. We're talking about the latest attack ads that are targeting several key races. Some are focusing on abortion, others on education and the economy. It's a lot to digest. And Bob, John, we're seeing more of these as we get closer to November. So, Bob, I want to start with you. Why are we seeing these particular races get targeted?
So the Republicans in the Kansas legislature have a supermajority, meaning they can override the Democratic Governor Laura Kelly's vetoes. She wants to break that supermajority, so her vetoes have some staying power. And really, they need to flip 5 seats. The Democrats flip, meaning gain, in the House and the Senate, a combination to stop that supermajority from happening. And so there's about 10 seats the Democrats need to hold and or gain. Not very many out of, hundreds of seats in the legislature. So what we're going to be seeing throughout this entire fall is these specific seats being targeted by political action committees from both Republican side and Democratic side, really pounding to try to get that advantage.
All right, and John, we're talking about abortion in some of these. Brownback comes up in some of these ads. Tell me why these issues are playing such a critical role in these races.
Because the road to breaking the supermajority runs through Johnson County, which has become bluer. There's a good amount of support for abortion rights in Johnson County and a good amount of support for public schools, which means they're betting that lingering distaste for the Brownback tax experiment, which Democrats called the failed experiment, is still out there and they can still capitalize on it.
All right, thank you both so much. And that was your look inside Kansas politics. We'll see you right here next Sunday on KSNT, 10:30 a.m. Have a good day.